Yep, all good.
Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for being here with us. First, I want to know, just reflecting, how would you compare and contrast Saturday's home opener and last year's home opener, if you can remember? Like, what felt different and what's sort of the evolution that you think about?
Yeah. I think both home openers were obviously great games for us. We played Indiana, that's when Stewie went up for 40. And it was loud, but I think, our home opener the other day, that was just on another level. And I think that's the, we talk about the movement, the momentum that we've gained this year, and we got a lot of fans last year, and they're just passionate fans in New York, and we love it.
I appreciate that. And I'm just curious, how do you describe Niara's role this year, and what are some goals that you have for her?
Yeah, look, we're excited about Niara's development, but the opportunity to play, and that's why, obviously we have 2 post players. We didn't go any deeper in that. We have full trust in her, and she's healthy, she's confident, she's grown as a player, and that's a part of the journey, especially a player that has had a lot of injuries. She hasn't had as much experience as some of the others, but she's got all the physical components, she's got a big heart, and she's going to be a key player for us. I mean, at the moment, she's just obviously subbing with JJ, keeping that big post player on there, but I think, especially in the first game, I played them together, and that's something we didn't know. We're still trying to work it out, and that looked pretty good too, because JJ obviously is a face to basket post as well. Just excited for her just to keep progressing, and keep learning. She's going to be a really good player.
Sorry, then Lucas.
Coach, is it too early to start talking about, right here, is it too early to start talking about identity? And if so, what do you want the identity of this group to be, or does it have to happen organically?
No, look, we have 1 year of experience now in forging that identity, and there's areas we knew we needed to get better at, and I suppose our identity, if we want to be tough, that's just bringing the toughness at both ends of the ball, of the court, but particularly on the defensive end, and where we can be really aggressive, where we can be versatile with our switching because of the size that we have, and that's where we need to take great pride in. The first game I wasn't happy with the defense. The last 2 games have been good, but every game is going to be a new challenge for us. And I think the more we play, get back in the rhythm, the more we get our bench. Still, we still have to try and work out how that all works too. But tough.
And then what has to be the focus today, given what the Storm is in?
We always respect our opponent. No complacency, but it's early in the season, so it's us about getting consistency in our game and not having lapses. We had a few lapses against Indiana. We didn't win the second half, but we have to have that killer mentality, and I think that's the focus as we progress through this season.
The turnovers were kind of even on Saturday, but the transition battle was not. So I'm just curious, when you're bringing in a bunch of talented veterans last year, building on that this year, do you have to really instill transition principles and how to fill lanes, or is that something that is innate for players of that stature?
No, it's certainly not innate. We work on that a lot. You'll hear us get to the corners. We'll start tracking it because you don't cut corners. Basketball's about how do you create advantages, and spacing is critical for our success. Sacrifice cutting is critical for good to great, paint to great. But look, these players, particularly our starters, have, they play together. They know what we need. Where they all can have success in what we're trying to do in that phase, and if we're all doing the right thing, we're pretty hard to stop in transition.
Sandy Brondello has talked a lot about the defensive growth being a big part of the season. She called it being on a string, like the rotations being an important part. I guess from your perspective, what does it look like when you're sort of diagnosing that issue that needs to get fixed, and how do you go about fixing something like the rotations?
Yeah, look, I think it's just taking ownership for that side of the ball and being engaged for every possession. We can't have any weak links, because when you do, that's when the foundation's not very strong. So it's more about up to touch, where we can be always up to touch on the ball, and then our positioning behind the ball. And we're not there yet. We've had a few breakdowns, but it's still early days, it's just getting them back, and then maybe if we have to change something, we will, but we're saying let's be consistent with how we approach different areas of the floor and actions that we face. But being on a string is just that activity, you know, and that's hand pressure as well, but not standing. No one should ever be standing on defense. There's always got to be some movement and activity and using our mouth and talk.
Coach, you mentioned a lot about, you know, it being early and wanting to develop a state of consistency for the team. Stewie, of course, is off to an amazing start. What is the conversation between you, her, and the team around making sure that she sustains the performance that she's keeping long into the playoffs as we're looking to get that championship this go around?
Yeah, look, I don't, you know, Stewie, it's great. I think a lot of players have got off to a great start. And, you know, she's the last year's MVP, and she's a very key player for what we want to achieve. But we don't want to make sure it's all, not all, you know, put all the pressure on Stewie. I think, and I made the mistake of overplaying her last year, and that didn't help us. So it's just trying to be smarter. It's great to see when she's just out there balling, because it's a pretty sight. But then just see the chemistry, how they're playing together, and we really are. We talk about it, you know, good to great, paint to great. You know, we really do track that. We track first, second, third side, and how efficient we can be on the offensive side. But yeah, I think she has an IQ of the charts, so that kind of helps her have great success.
Sandy, great to see you. Two, if I could. One, about Skylar specifically. You've seen her at her best. What are you seeing that's similar, what that's different? You know, it's 20 months on. I'm just curious, what do you see that's different there?
She's still got a big heart, you know. She just plays so hard and competes so hard, and you love that about her. And she's got the speed, but you know she's even going to go to another level. I suppose the thing now, she's getting to the rim, probably not as finishing as well as she has in the past. She's been out for quite some time, but once she gets her legs under, it's going to be really scary. So probably happy to play Seattle early in the season, but I'm excited for her to be back in the league. I mean, this is one of the best guards in our league, and you know, Seattle, they're a bit like us. They have a lot of new players, so they're just going to take a little bit of time to gel, and but you know, they can beat any player even now without the continuity that they have, or the chemistry on any given night, because they're that dangerous.
And that's the other part is, you know, when you look at them writ large, do you see a lot of yourselves a year ago in this team now?
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, I think, you know, obviously Jill's a great scorer. I mean, but now you're adding other talented players around her, and they're obviously well balanced. You've got a point guard, you've got a scoring guard, you've got you know, Neko, one of the all-time greats, and you've got my Aussie girl, Ezzy, doing good things there. And you know, you've got a solid bench, and it just takes time. It took us time. It takes, you know, all teams to put in new, really great players, how it works and how it all fits together.
And you mentioned Ezzy. I guess, are you watching, you know, Storm games and watching her development very closely and trying to, you know, see what you can apply then for the Opals down the road? Or when you think about her development, what are you hoping then to see this year out of her to set you guys up for it?
Yeah, look, I think I know Ezzy pretty well, so getting to coach her. But you know, I think in Brazil that was her best tournament with the Opals, and you see just the maturity as a basketball player. I mean, she's still very young. People forget that the Aussies are drafted here in their 20s, so she's still very young. She's going to keep getting better and better, but just the athleticism. But yeah, of course, I watch when I'm scouting him. I don't have time to watch every game of all the Aussies. There's a lot of teams that the Aussies are on, so yeah, I just want them to do well and have good rhythm going into the Paris Olympics. So you know, that's where I want them to play, but hopefully not too good tonight.
Hey, Sandy. Lucas asked about some of the transition offense that you guys have played, but I wanted to flip it to the Seattle side, because I'll probably say small sample size for the first quarter of the season, but 13.3 steals a game, and they've been really aggressive on entry passes with help defense. How do you balance maintaining the ball movement that is when this offense is running at its best with dictating the pace without playing into just their aggression?
Yeah, experience, like playing with poise, and Washington, if you go back to that game, it's more like, oh my gosh, we're just throwing the ball over. You know, we're a little bit clunky at times, and you know, a little bit last game too, when the pressure gets raised, you know, how we have our counters in place, how we want to play, and it's how to create spacing when you have to move, you know. It's just having a little bit more discipline. You don't have to make a touchdown every single entry that we're running, and just continue playing the right way. But, turnovers, last game was a little too high, first game, but we've just got to take care of the ball, especially at a team like this that really blows stuff up. And so it'll be a good test for us. I mean, every game is going to be an opportunity for us to get better.
Hey, Coach. Nico Mule on the other side is coming through a really tough situation with their work visa. I was just wondering what were your thoughts on that? Like, have you seen like a situation that bizarre?
Never. It amazes me. I mean, I'm Australian. I got my visa pretty easy, so but I wasn't in college, I suppose. But there's other college players, I would imagine. You guys know all the technical stuff and all that. But yeah, it's surprising me why. You probably know more than me, Fifi, but I'm amazed that she hasn't. It's been a few weeks now, and it usually doesn't take that long, but I'm not in that space either, so hopefully she's back soon.
We'll finish with Brian.
Sandy, do you, when you look at last year to this year, do you see the starting five, there's a turnovers, but do you see more cohesiveness this year? We've talked about chemistry a lot, but do you actually see it, and in what ways is it manifesting?
100%. See it, feel it, believe it. Look, I think when we come back in, we got close in year one, and it would have been an amazing thing if we actually had to pull it off in year one, just to throw these players together and think we're going to just snap our fingers, it's going to work. And but we didn't. But we all reflected, and we kind of knew where we could get better, and it was that building deeper connections. And I think that's Vegas had. They had a few more years together to build those connections and understand each other and appreciate each other. And it's fun. There's a lot of laughter in the bus. They've got book clubs, they're hanging out, and I always think that's a way to get to know one, is spend some time with them off the court. And then on the court, you just know how. And I think, last year's experience has put us in a good opportunity to handle whatever adversity, hopefully. Like, we'll face adversity, we know, we're not going to win every game. It'd be nice if we could, but we've got to, how do we handle it when it gets really tough? And I've seen good moments now that has shown growth of this team.
Great. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thanks, you.
Thanks, everyone. Coach.